Welcome, this is Kari from On Point Quilter. As I prepare for the show for my quilt guild, I have to do a number of labels. And one thing that I really love to do is use the actual quilt designed in EQ as a basis for the label. I also find it useful to use Microsoft Word in producing these labels as well. Let me share with you my process. I am on the quilt work table. I tried to recolor my electric quilt files so that the fabrics resemble those actually used in piecing the quilt. And now I want to make a matching label. The first thing I'm going to do is hide show quilt patch lines. Then I'm going to go to layer 2. I'm going to select set block, and I'm going to click on the 3 dots and select add a plain block. And then I will drag that plain block on layer 2. Now I like to find a space that looks like it would work well with the quilt. So a lot of times I will put the label portion in the center, and in particular if I had pieced borders, I will try to keep the pieced borders so that it resembles the quilt. So I can go to the Adjust tab, I can select the block that I just did, and I think I'm going to start right here. Now it's helpful if I have my grid snap increments on. Sometimes that will work the way I want, sometimes it won't, but for this one, am going to set it to 1 inch. Make sure that I have both snap block position to grid and snap block size to grid on. So I have the upper left corner, and I'm going to drag this so that it matches where I want my my plain space to end. Now the X and the Y axes are not quite right, so if I just move it away and let it snap back into position, now I have a box on the inside of my quilt. Now I'm going to go to layer 1, and I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select one of the fabrics. Let me make sure I'm on the fabric tools, eyedropper, select one of the fabrics. I will take my paintbrush, go to layer 2, and now I will use that to color the inside of the quilt. If you want to put a more lengthy explanation in your quilt label, the text tools in Electric Quilt are not very conducive to that. In those situations, I prefer to add my text in Word. So under Print and Export, I'm going to select Export Image. I'll just put it in my EQ8 images, and I will call this one Flight of Fancy Label, and I'm going to select Save. When creating a label, I always select a width and height larger than what I need so that I have good resolution. So I selected 8 inches. I also am going to bring the resolution up, so I'm going to bring it to 300 dots per inch. One of the things that happens when I bring up that resolution is if I have any sort of white lines where the patch lines are, that will get rid of that. I want to make sure that outline patches and outline blocks are turned off, and I will select OK. Okay, now I have opened Microsoft Word, and I'm going to select Insert Picture. And I'm going to go to my EQ8 images, and I'm going to select my Flight of Fancy label and select Insert. Now I'm going to go ahead and just drag the corner, and I'm going to resize it so that it can be a little bit smaller. You can also select the green rotate circle to change the orientation of the image, and that gives me a little bit wider space horizontally. Now I'm going to do an insert text box, and I'll do a draw text box and just place that over the image. And I'm going to go ahead and type my label. I can make changes to the font, the spacing, the sizing, and I can even come back later and make additional changes very easily. And once I have that typed and sized, I'm going to right click and select Format Shape, and I'm going to say No Fill, and under Line Color, No Line. Now, depending on the version of Word you have, this may be in a little bit different place. Once I have it roughly in position, I will use the Control with the arrow keys on my keyboard to fine-tune the placement of the text. It is now ready for printing on EQprintables. My next label is for my paper snowflake quilt, and this was my finished project. I'm going to start by deleting the quilting. So I will go to Layer 3, I'll select the Adjust tool, and I'm going to drag a box to completely enclose all of the quilting. And then I will select Delete. Then I'm going to go to Layer 2, and I'm going to select the snowflake motifs, and I just want to move them out of the way for now. And I'm going to select my text tool, do a Set Text. I can select a typeface, which would be any font on my computer, and with the Shift key I'm going to engage that on my keyboard, drag a box, and I'm going to go ahead and label this. So Paper Snowflakes, Kari Shell, 2019. I would like to change the color of the font as well as the size of the text. So I will go to the scroll bar under Approximate Size and Interest and bring it down so it fits in the quilt center. Then I will select the center alignment, and I'm going to go ahead and use the Adjust tool, select it, and I'm going to do a center horizontally and center vertically. Now I am going to go to the fabric tools, and I'm going to use the eyedropper, find the white that I used for the snowflake, and I'm going to use the spray can, and I'm going to recolor my font. Then I'm going to use the block tools and do an adjust. I want to make sure Preserve Aspect Ratio is on, and I'm going to really reduce the size of these snowflakes because I want to keep them in my label, but I don't have a lot of space for them. And I can even do a little bit of a rotation. And I decided I wanted to add a binding, so I will go to my borders. I will select Add, select the type mitered, and I may just bring that down to 1/2 inch. Then I will select the Design tab, go to Fabric Tools, and color the border. And now I can go to Print and Export, select Export Image, and I'm going to call this Paper Snowflakes label, select Save. I will change the width to 8 inches. Under my resolution, I'm going to change it to 300, have my options turned off, and select OK. I've gone back to the Word document, and I will do an Insert and select Picture, and I'll find the Paper Snowflake label and select Insert, and I'm going to right click under Wrap Text. I'm going to say In Front of Text, which is going to give me some flexibility in moving this. I want to make sure that I'm leaving at least 1 inch between the two images, and so if I want, I can resize this just like I did the first one, and then I can go ahead and print this. Thanks so much for watching. For additional tips and techniques, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com. And while you're there, check out my electric quilt online classes.